for George Bush. He is a CIA operative, and of course Ted Shackley and Clines were both also CIA agents. At the highest level, these were actually station chiefs, also named as major drug smugglers by Kunsa, who supplies the world with the heroin. Interestingly enough, Richard Armitage was a partner in the Far East Trading Company, which you saw mentioned on that video, which was also a partner with General Heine Adderholt. He was Richard Secord's commanding officer during the Vietnam War and the problem with Air America and running the narcotics out of Vietnam and Laos at that time. Closely entwined with Vang Pao. Vang Pao, the warrior from Laos area that was constantly flying narcotics out. Vang Pao presently lives on a large ranch in Montana. Was purchased for him by the Central Intelligence Agency. He has ongoing protection by the agency, and more than likely is probably still dealing in some funny stuff rather than just soybeans as he supposedly grows on the ranch. Premier Key, formerly from Laos and Vietnam, is presently in Louisiana. He owns a shrimping operation. How come I can't relate to a premier formerly used to gold and all the fineries of life running a shrimping operation? Although he says he's doing well, I wonder if the shrimping possibly could be connected to the transportation of funny white powder, as with Oliver North's communications. I'm about to show you here. Now this is an internal memo from actually the courier, Rob Owen, to, and that's, I say the courier, this is a young fellow, the enthusiastic supporter of Oliver North, that ran all over the country generating funds for the Contras and assisting Oliver North in communications between ranches in Costa Rica, et cetera, and other locations. Rob Owen, in this communication, as you can see, first I want to show you this. This is the way this page was brought before the United States Senate and the Congress. As you can see here, it's completely blacked out. This is typical things called redacting, which is done on the basis, of course, good old national security. If you're running a drug operation and maybe killing folks and murdering and doing things of that sort on the side, of course, you can always cover it up by doing it under the auspices of national security. You cannot pursue it in court, you cannot talk about it, you cannot get any information on it. And likewise, as where they classified my information out of my toy factory, which I'll show you in a moment. The point is that the paper you're looking at now is part of that communication was retrieved as part of the investigations on the Contras. And I had been able to retrieve that same piece of paper, and by the way, it's only one page of about a 6 or 7 page letter, the one page being most interesting to myself. I had retrieved it prior to having it blacked out. Now, as you see it here, you will realize why it was blacked out. They talk about a drug operation here, folks. This is, as you will see, it's a shrimping company out of Miami. The people that were involved with that shrimping operation would have been known to certain people in the Senate and the Congress, the same as most people understand and know Pablo Escobar, that they are in fact a major drug operator, or he was a major drug operation. These personalities here, Mr. Munoz and Cheney's, Frank Cheney's, etc., you will see that's mentioned here in the paperwork. It was a drug operation that Oliver North was totally involved with and setting up the Southern Front and using their ships, etc., cooperatively. If you also notice here, there's a reference to a DEA agent, a drug enforcement agent, that Oliver North was going to see that came along on board and assist them with dealing with the drug operators. Well, that's pretty convenient, isn't it? This paperwork has never been seen previously in public at all. No one has known about this. Now, unto itself, that's not too bad. If you knew, in fact, that it was a drug operation and that they blacked it out for their own security, national security reasons. However, if you look over here, now you're going to see that they took Treasury money, direct United States Treasury wire transfers. The total amount of these was about $300,000 and $400,000. This was under the auspices of Oliver North's humanitarian assistance program into the Nicaragua Contras. But the reality is, folks, as you will see here, now that you know who these people were, you will see that these transfers went into the narcotics front operation, the shrimp drug front operation. Here's one transfer, here's another one. Now, additionally here, you will see, and there is better copies of this, but nonetheless, this is sufficient for today. This is the actual account out of the bank of the drug operation that shows the receipt of all of the United States Treasury transfers of your tax dollars into the drug operation. I'm sure you don't mind trying to help these guys out a little bit. Additionally, you will see here, this is the signature card signed by the drug smugglers that owned that shrimping operation. Now I want to cut away to the fellow who was the bookkeeper for the Medellin cartel and the biggest drug operations out of Colombia, and he'll tell you a little bit about his connection with the Contras and the United States National Security Council.
Ramon Milian Rodriguez was brought to Capitol Hill. Ocean Hunter, it appears, is just the beginning. Under oath, he told senators that the drug connection is much larger, that he'd handled a direct $10 million in cash contributions from the Colombian cocaine cartel to the Contras.
Outside of the United States, drug dealers are very powerful people. They have cash. The CIA deals primarily with items outside of the U.S. If they're going to deal in foreign countries' policies and politics, they're going to run up against or run with the drug dealers. It cannot be done any other way.
Do you have any evidence, any proof, any ideas of whether the large sums of cash you had delivered to the Contras, whether it actually made it to the Contras? Whether it actually went to beans and rice or bullets or...
There's no way to trace cash.
What's your guess?
My guess is that not all of it got there. You know, but I'm a cynic.
Where would it have ended up?
I would say that you're going to find a lot of it in nest eggs, foreign accounts, waiting for the day when the Contra issue is no longer popular, when Congress votes it out of existence, and they have to do something else for a living.
Well, okay, that's nice. At least it's good to see we have ongoing cooperation between ourselves and the drug smugglers directly out of the White House. I'm sure that makes you feel comfortable. Now, when you have people like Mr. Robert Hunt that I spoke about earlier, who came forward and talked about things like the Zapata oil rigs that's owned by the George Bush family predominantly, being used as the oil rigs being used as drug drops. Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, when they come forward and they talk about these things, and they talk about the Watchtower Project, which was the little signal towers that flew the planes into the Noriega's Panama, and also talked about things like these Zapata oil rigs being as dope drops, etc. Commonly, the agencies will say they don't know these guys. Okay, you know, this guy didn't know anything at all. Well, here I'm going to show you where Robert Hunt, who did come forward and talks about these events, is totally documented. This particular letter that you're looking at right here was written from the Israeli embassy to Lieutenant Colonel Hunt. You will also see here, this is a letter from Oliver North relative to the operations and that they were carrying on. Additionally, you will see that there is even a letter here